Peace, family, and welcome to this edition of the Drapetomaniac Podcast. This is Ayapo Yapa, the HDIC, that is, the head Drapetomaniac in charge. And we're here to have conversations on how to get off this plantation. This podcast is more in the form of a question than a monologue tonight. What do you believe?
Excuse me. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that you listeners are listening to the Drapetomaniac podcast on doayamedia.com. You are, right?
What do you truly, genuinely, in your heart of hearts, believe? When you're lying in bed at night and everything is quiet and you're staring at the ceiling or at your clock that's telling you it's 3 a.m. and you're alone with your thoughts, what do you believe? I pose this question because I have expressed many times the foundational premise one holds means everything. And if your foundational premise is erroneous, then everything that branches out from that premise will be equally flawed, if not more so. So, the purpose of this podcast isn't necessarily to tell you anything, but to ask you what it is that you think or believe, or if you're honest enough or have the strength of character to be willing to stand by what it is you believe. I think, and I could be wrong, but I think that most people respect a person who is steadfast in their belief system. No matter how much we might disagree with them or even hate them for their beliefs, we can at least say, that person holds an idiotic belief according to my belief system, but at least they aren't phony. There's something about human beings that makes us hate people when they're being phony. Think about it. Who's more repugnant to you? Someone who says something that you hate and totally disagree with, but you feel like, I can't stand that person, but at least they're being real as far as the way that they really feel about this subject. Or someone you agree with on just about every word that comes out of their mouth, but then you find out that their words and actions don't match up. Or even a person, and think about this now, who says things that you totally disagree with, but then they're doing the exact opposite of what they're talking about. And the thing that they're doing may actually be what you agree with, but they talk a different thing. It gets messy, but the shorthand is that people can't stand a hypocrite. Keep in mind that having that attitude doesn't mean that you in any way agree with the person or even admire that person. It's more a case of respecting the idea of a person who is firm in their belief system. I would also argue that people who are steadfast in various belief systems, now this may not be many, but in some cases are more easily reasoned with than a person who has no solid foundation or no moral center. But I'm not here to talk about phonies, but to ask us to look at ourselves and to make sure that we are congruent and not being hypocrites, even if it's only to ourselves. No real progress can be made in any endeavor until we deal with ourselves as individuals and in truth and honesty. And no one else needs to know that except the individual. That's because typically when a person has adopted a belief system, it's based upon circumstances that they've drawn on and from various points of evidence. However, these people can be split into two camps. Those who become dogmatic in their beliefs and will no longer listen to anything or allow anything that brings into question what they now believe. And the other side of that are those who are firm in their beliefs, but always leave room for new information that may run contrary to what they feel they already know. I would put myself in that second group because in the interest of intellectual honesty and the knowledge that among people who believe they're right, everyone thinks they're right. And just by virtue of common sense and logic, everyone can't be right, especially when it comes to belief systems or worldviews that are diametrically opposed. But ironically, everyone could be wrong about a thing. And in some rare cases, everyone could actually be right, and they just have a piece of it. I'm a person who believes that there is an ultimate truth about everything. Whether any human has that or can ever know it is debatable in my mind. But I do feel that there are some truths that are just what they are. But none of us can know it all. I'm a person of faith, but in the interest of intellectual honesty, I have always openly admitted to atheists that no, I can't unequivocally prove my faith. I've come to my beliefs through a number of channels and personal experiences, but no, I can't physically prove the existence of Yah if I'm just being honest. But I always hasten to add, any more than they can disprove it. Because there again, in the interest of intellectual honesty, you would have to admit that you can't disprove it either. I actually went on a tangent and went into some higher questions and thoughts. I digress back to my original query. What do you believe? Do you believe you live in a democracy? Do you believe your vote counts? Do you believe elected officials can be moved to do the right thing? Do you believe that love is love and interracial dating and marriage is all right? Do you believe a person can be pro-black and quote-unquote sleep white? Do you believe black women aren't crap? Do you believe black men aren't crap? Do you believe Yah will come and miraculously fix everything and punish white people for what they've done? Do you believe black people are cursed? Do you believe a system of white supremacy even exists? Do you believe the transatlantic slave trade never happened? Do you believe black people were already populating the Americas before white people showed up? Do you believe that both can be possible at the same time? Do you believe we should integrate? Do you believe we should separate? Do you believe reparations and money will solve the problems of black people? Do you believe education will fix it? Do you believe our people deserve to be on the bottom and that all we go through is our own fault? I pose all these questions rhetorically, not for anyone to answer to me or anyone else, frankly, but to think deeply on and answer for yourselves. I don't know the right or wrong answer. I have my own opinions and my own beliefs, but this is for you to answer for yourself. We talk about the problems of unity among our people and for our safety, security, and sanity. But before we can even think about that, one of the things that we must acknowledge is that we are all in different places on the continuum, and we all have varying belief systems. Some of these systems are not compatible at all, and some are nuanced and will not prevent us from standing arm in arm. I have realized that my messages are aimed at a very specific demographic, and that if, say, someone is a staunch integrationalist, and there's no way to sway them from that position, then little or nothing that I have to say will be of any use to them, because my entire message is about separation. So this whole thing is about asking ourselves these kinds of questions and more. But it's only for the individual to know these things. It's not for anyone to try to justify anything for me or for me to justify anything to anybody. It's about knowing yourself and what you think and what you believe and why you believe it. So, what do you believe? It's deeply important to have a strong belief system in which you can be anchored. But equally, if not more so, it is so important that you have a belief system that is right and helpful and above all, truthful. And how can one know that? I don't know. Even for as steadfast as I am in my beliefs, I always admit that if some truth is revealed that proves my original belief to be in error, then I'll grasp onto that. Not because I'm easily swayed, but because I do believe in going where the truth takes me. I said to my wife and others many times, because I've been asked this question a lot at different times, if I could have one wish, just one, what would it be? And my answer never changes. It would not be for money or fame, not to be happy or healthy or even to live forever, not even world peace. My one wish would be to know the truth, to know it. With that, everything else can be done. So, this isn't about telling anyone what to think or what they should think or to pass judgment on what anyone thinks or anything else. Just as I don't want to have judgments passed on me because of what I believe. But it's only to ask you to ask yourselves in very real, very deep and profound ways what it is that you actually believe and why you believe it. And most of all, is it the truth? Because once you answer that, you'll know what motivates you. You'll know what triggers you and why. You'll know what moves you and what causes you to act and react to things in the ways that you do. I can promise you this. If you sit down with yourself and start asking yourself some of these questions in deep ways, some of your own answers may surprise you. Maybe next week I'll do a podcast based on what I believe. That may be helpful in understanding where I'm coming from, but we'll see. I leave you with this. A person's personality is how they behave in public and how others perceive them. A person's character is how they behave when they think no one's watching. And with that, I thank you for listening to the Drapetomaniac podcast. As always, this is Ayapo Yapo, the HDIC, that is, the head Drapetomaniac in charge, wishing you safety, security, and sanity, peace, and blessings. Until we meet again next week at this same time, until then, I'll see you on the run.
And thank you again for listening to the Drapetomaniac podcast. Tune in next week at doiamedia.com. DOEAIAMEDIA.com. And again, we'll catch you on the run. Peace.